I wanted to work at the sweet spot or at the intersection of the profits and purpose. So work at the intersection and make sure that you can make money if you do more good to the world.
While most people are just realizing how we are living in the fourth industrial revolution, one young visionary of a man, Pratik Gauri, has started discussing what lies on the horizon. The creator of the fifth industrial revolution, founder and CEO of FireChain, and India president of Fifth Element Group, among many other titles. A prolific writer, public speaker, investor, entrepreneur, and hey, here's something I'm adding from my end, he's a Libran just like me. Welcome, Pratik. It's so great to have you here on the show with us today.
Thank you so much, Neha, for this very kind introduction. And it's a pleasure to be with you on your show. Thank you.
Thank you. So the creator of the fifth industrial revolution, I have to ask, how did that come to be? How did that all happen?
Okay, so, it all started when I was 16. So, about 15. So I just turned 31. So I was 15 years back when I was 16. I realized that social entrepreneurship was considered synonymous to charity, and businesses were considered synonymous to profits. So there was no person or no place where I could find where people were working at the intersection of purpose and profits. Or let me rephrase it, where people were actually making money and also doing good to the world. So either they were just doing business and making money, or they were just doing charity. And that's the way I saw the dichotomy, or that's the way I saw two worlds working in parallel when I was 16. And I, somehow wanted to work at the intersection of both these worlds. And I realized that the current world that we are currently in, which is the fourth industrial revolution, of course, it promotes profits so much. And by the way, it's given us access to amazing technologies like 3D printing, AI, blockchain, and so on and so forth. And most of my businesses have been around that. But I wanted to work at the sweet spot or at the intersection of the profits and purpose. So work at the intersection and make sure that you can make money if you do more good to the world. So the fifth industrial revolution is a concept that I started promoting at 16, which was basically ideally to try to prove the thesis that you can actually make more money if you do more good to the world. So the more good you do, the more money you make. And that's the thesis that I've been promoting through my company. So I started building companies one after the other. I've built 9 of them now, and all of them have been around the same theme.
So can you tell me a little about these different companies? Is this all under the Fifth Element Group?
No. Fifth Element Group is just one of the companies that I'm a part of. So my first company was an edutech consulting company. So basically all the companies that I've built, and of course now we will be speaking about Fire. So that's the 9th, that's the latest company I have. But before that, I built 8 of them, and all of them have been around the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals or the Fifth Industrial Revolution. So the UN SDGs, for some of the people who don't know, they're basically a language, a simple language of the UN, which simplifies social impact for us. So it's like SDG 3, for instance, stands for health. SDG 4 would stand for education. SDG 5 would stand for gender equality. SDG 6 would stand for clean water and sanitation. SDG 13 would stand for clean energy, and so on and so forth. So these have been the goals, which have 17 goals, which have given to the world by the UN. And if you kind of achieve that, you're saying that you're moving towards sustainability, or you're moving the world towards a better place. So, most of my businesses were around these sectors. So either they were health tech, climate tech, renewables, solar, wind, education, gender equality, so on and so forth. So most of my businesses were around that. And through that, I wanted to kind of prove the thesis that, you can make money if you do more good to the world. So you can basically make more money if you sell a juice rather than selling a Coca-Cola. You can make more money if you promote geothermal energy rather than coal. So those are the kind of businesses that I've been in, and that's been all to prove the overarching thesis of the fifth industrial revolution, which is to make more money if you do more good to the world. And my life mission has been to impact 1 billion people positively. So that's my life vision and the mission. So that's what I'm trying to do.
Okay, so can you tell me how far along do you think you've gotten so far on this mission? How many lives have
Um,
you impacted?
Yes. Yeah. So basically, when you talk about the fifth industrial revolution in general, you say you can make more money if you do more good to the world. So the last 15 years, what I've been able to do, I've been able to impact tens of millions of people through different companies, generate tens of millions of dollars, and kind of able to prove this thesis of the fifth industrial revolution that you can actually make more money if you do more good to the world. And then I represented India and my companies at World Economic Forum Davos, World Forum Oxford, the Nobel Peace Prize Forum Oslo, the United Nations General Assembly, and did all of that. And last year in COVID, I found myself at an inflection point where I was like, how do I quickly scale from tens of millions of people to a billion people? Like, how do I quickly impact a billion people positively? And that's when the current ecosystem Fire was born. That's the reason it was created, to kind of impact a billion people.
Oh, okay, fine. So please tell me a little bit about Fire.org.
Yes, so Fire is it's the world's first and only sustainable blockchain ecosystem, which has 5 components to it. So first, we have our own layer 1 blockchain. By the way, this is India's first layer 1 project and the world's first and only sustainable layer 1 project. The secret sauce being that we have embedded the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which I just spoke about, the 17 UN SDGs, into the consensus. So any blockchain is governed by a consensus mechanism. So we have embedded the SDGs into the consensus, which basically means we have created an infrastructure. And when you ride on that infrastructure, you are basically getting financially rewarded and incentivized for following sustainable practices. And that's the way we are moving the whole world from for-profit economy to a for-benefit economy. So that's the first component.
Okay.
Second, we have our own wallet. Third, we have our own NFT and metaverse marketplace. Fourth, we have Fire School, which is trying to promote blockchain education across schools of the world. So we are partnering with a lot to basically try to promote blockchain as education, because I think there's a dearth of talent that we are facing, and that's because people still don't understand the concept. So we're trying to promote education through universities. So that's the fourth component. And the fifth and the final component, we also have a VC fund, which funds and incubates businesses which are focused on sustainability and working at the intersection of technology, frontier tech, and sustainability, and building on top of our layer 1 chain, Fire chain. So, that's pretty much, in a nutshell of what we're trying to do at Fire.
Very nice. So I always believe that experts in a certain field, they are able to sort of break things down and explain concepts really well to even a 5-year-old. And I'm someone who doesn't really understand blockchain. So if you had to explain it to me like I was a 5-year-old, please tell me what you would tell me.
Okay, so as the name suggests, blockchain. So it's a chain of blocks, right? Where you can store data.
Okay.
Chain of blocks where you can store data and securely transfer assets from one block to the other. Period. Okay. That's it. But now the beautiful thing being that you can't change that data. So I'll give you a small example. One of my very good friends, day before yesterday, it was 22nd of February, she got married on the blockchain. So think how this happened. So on one block, it says that my friend got married to her husband, and it says 22/22, which is an input given to the block, which is the date, at 22/22 island time. So basically, it's at 22/22/22 at 22/22 that resides on the block. Now imagine it's a timestamp. It's a timestamp, and imagine after 10 years, if they want to see what happened, they already know that that was the block that stores all the information of the marriage. Now, what that does is it brings to you a lot of advantages, and those are the advantages of blockchain, because it's transparent, it's more accountable and secure, and a bunch of others. But that's in a nutshell what a blockchain is.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I think I get the concept a little better now. But yeah. Okay, great. So can you tell me a little bit about your educational background? What did you do to get into this field and where you are right now?
Okay, so basically, I studied MBA at the Indian Institute of Foreign Trade. I got a couple of courses from the University of Chicago, the Harris School of Public Policy, did a non-profit course there. Of course, but like on the way, what I discovered of having studied and then starting a school and all of that, I personally think that you should treat a school or a college as just a playground where you network. That's it. Because learning is become so easy on the internet through YouTube and through these interviews and through these stuff, that I think most of the learning that I've got hasn't been in my school or hasn't been in my college. It's mostly been with the people I work with. So I think your network is very important. Work with the right set of people and be at the right place. So if you should know what to study at YouTube, and everything is free. So I still contemplate on why would you pay so much money to go to a college, and why not just digital education. So I am a firm believer of digital education, and I think schools are just a medium of networking and making sure that you learn from your people. That's it.
True. That makes sense, actually. That makes a lot of sense, especially in this day and age that we live in. Maybe there are a few courses that do require professional education, like doctors, and like I was a dentist. My background is dentistry, but see where I am now. Yeah, I just switched to my passion.
With me, I studied engineering at a college in Delhi, and then I did my MBA from IFT again in Delhi, and then I did a bunch of courses from from universities in the US. And look at what I'm doing. Like, I currently, nobody, and then in the school days, back in 10th and 12th, you remember, we used to be taught that the speed of light to 8 decimals is 3 into 10 to the power, or whatever that is. And I don't think I use any of that, right? You don't use it. I don't use any of the stuff that I was taught in most of my schooling or my college. But what I do use from that is the network I built. So I definitely work with people. Like, if I want to hire people, it's easier because I went to those schools. It's easier to hire people and a bunch of stuff. But if you were to ask me on learning, I think, and even the careers that I've chosen. So most of my businesses have been around social entrepreneurship, and you don't get that kind of education in any school or college.
Very true. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it's not something that you would hear a lot of people talking about right now, but it's very true. It rings really true. Yeah. So both sustainability and blockchain, these are very two big words that get thrown around a lot. So can you explain how these two tie into each other, which basically is the concept for fire chain?
Yeah, this is okay, so I'll tell you. So these are, as I said, these are two different worlds, completely different worlds. Blockchain is a technology which has the power to, and if you use the technology, you can basically save on costs. You can basically make the entire system more accountable. Embed more transparency into the current systems. So that's just blockchain in general, like a concept. Like, if you use blockchain, for instance, let me give you an example. If you use, say, blockchain in say, a donation, like I give you $1,000 right now, and I want that those $1,000 to be spent on, you giving it a donation to a school, like to a blind school, right? So on the blockchain, it's easier for me to track on how those $1,000 were spent. That's the beauty of blockchain. So that's, I can track if you really spend that money on a blind school or you did not. So that brings a lot of accountability, transparency, security, and trust, right? And of course, it decreases the cost. So what blockchain does, there is no intermediary, right? It's just a chain of blocks. So there is no bank in the middle, right? There is nobody between the RBI and the customer, which is banking. There is nothing. It's just direct transfer. So it saves on cost as well. But one big problem that blockchain has, and that's the only big problem that I personally think is the big one, is sustainability. Now, what is sustainability? First of all, let's just break sustainability down. So sustainability is a buzzword that is being used, but what is it? It's basically, as I say, I particularly think that the lives or the language becomes easier when we treat it synonymous to the UN SDGs, because they're just a language which makes life easier. So if you see sustainability, it also accounts, health, education, climate, renewables, smart cities, solar, gender equality, financial inclusion, poverty. All of that is a part of sustainability, and that's all in the UN. So I particularly, when I talk about sustainability, I kind of just use the language of the UN SDGs, which makes life easier. Now I told you what blockchain, the power of blockchain, and the one bad part or the ugly piece, which is sustainability. And the reason it's not sustainable, I'll explain you. So any blockchain, any layer one blockchain, right? The chain of blocks is governed by a consensus, and that's how validators get to validate the block. So you need validators to validate blocks, right? So that is being governed by a consensus. Two current consensuses very popular, which are currently being used by Ethereum or Solana or the other layer one blockchains, are either proof of work or proof of stake. Now, this is a little technical, so I'll break it down. So what is proof of work? So proof of work basically means that if you and I have to validate a block, whoever spends more computational power gets rewarded. So which basically means if I have more computers and I'm spending more electricity, I get rewarded, right? And you don't, which basically means that it's very bad for the environment. So that's proof of work. Now let's come to proof of stake. So if you and I are trying to validate a block in proof of stake, if you stake more crypto or you have more money than I do, then you get to validate the block, which takes us back to our problem of rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer. Because if you're rich, you get to validate and you become more rich, and I'm poor, I stay poor, right? So then you don't solve the problem of financial inclusion, which is of course a big piece that blockchain can solve. So those two consensus cannot be used if you want to work at the intersection of both these sectors. If you want to work at the intersection of blockchain and sustainability. Now, what we have done, which is our, of course, secret sauce, is also something which we've come up with, which is called proof of benefit or proof of fire. Now, fire, it's 5R, it stands for the fifth industrial revolution again. What is proof of benefit? So proof of benefit, it means that what we have done is we have embedded 17 SDGs into the consensus, and we have we have scraped data from 650 ESG sources. So ESG is environmental social governance goals. So we have embedded all of that into the consensus. Now what that does is, if you and I are two validators and we are trying to validate a block on the blockchain, now what happens is, if you are using geothermal and I'm using coal, and if you have 50% in your workforce and I have 20%, so basically you get rewarded. You get to validate the block, which basically means that because you are following sustainable practices, you are getting financially rewarded. And that's the way you work at the intersection of blockchain and social impact, or blockchain and sustainability. And you make sure that you're using blockchain as an infrastructure. As an infrastructure to make the whole world go from for profit to for benefit, create the fifth industrial revolution and impact 1 billion people. And that's how I'm trying to achieve my overarching goal of impacting 1 billion people. Because now when we work with governments, when we work with Fortune 500s, when we work with large corporations, when they use our infrastructure, they are forced. They don't have a choice but to be financially rewarded only if they're following sustainable practices. If they don't do it, they don't make money. So they only make money if they do more good, and that's how you turn the whole world towards for benefit. That's how you basically change the whole economy and the whole paradigm from for-profit economy to a for-benefit economy. And that's how you create the fifth industrial revolution. So that's what we're trying to do.
Wow, I actually am mind blown by the concept. How did you even come up with something like this? Wow.
It happened at a chai shop, by the way. So it happened at a chai shop in Gurgaon. So I was in Dubai. I came to India for about 5 days, and my other co-founder, his name's also Pratik. He traveled from Barcelona to Delhi. And we were just sitting at a chai. We were just chatting, and I was just telling, this is what I'm trying to do. This is, I want to impact 1 billion people. I'm already impacting tens of millions of people. What if we use blockchain to actually empower 1 billion people? And what if we use blockchain? And obviously, because of me being in tech so much, both of us knew that the problem of blockchain is sustainability. But then at a chai shop, we sat for 30 minutes and used tissue papers on the chai shop. So we had tissue papers, right? When you drink chai. So we did not have a pen. So we got a pen from the guy. The waiter gave us the pen, and then we took tissue papers and we were writing, they're like, this is what we can actually do. We can have a new consensus we can basically reward people for following sustainable practices, because we realize that until you financially reward humans are, they get in, you have to incentivize people by money to make them shift.
Correct.
Right? So that's what we were thinking, that how do you do it? And that's how we created that consensus on that tissue paper, and that tissue paper turned into a research paper of 100 pages, and that 100-page research paper got published. And then we hired a tech team to build everything, and then after that we now we have already launched our test net, and we're going live in a few months on exchanges and doing a bunch of stuff. But that's how the idea was born, basically. And it's just been 6 months, so we're not old. We're just a 6-month-old company, 5.5 months in fact.
Okay, so I mean, I have to ask, there's so many fives in all of this, so is 5 your favorite number?
Well, I have basically it's become my favorite number because of the fifth industrial revolution that I started promoting. Then so many of my companies have the number 5. Some were unintentional, by the way. They weren't intentional, of course. The last one, Fifth Element Group. So Fifth Element Group, the last company which I'm currently still a part of, that 5 stands for SDG 5, gender equality. So because gender equality was the center of what we were trying to do, we named it Fifth Element Group, and we were born out of the UN. So we created that company out of the UN. And this company, Fire, of course, we wanted to amplify the concept of Fifth Industrial Revolution and take it to the world and make sure we empower 1 billion people. So that's why we named it 5IRE, but the E, because we wanted, and then we realized that, oh my God, this is a cool name. It comes out to be Fire. So, it's a cool name. So we did that. Yeah.
Very nice, very nice. So you've done your fair share of like public speaking. So what is number one, your favorite subject to speak about? Because you are, again, a part of so many different fields. So what's your favorite subject to speak about, and what's probably been the best stage that you've spoken on?
Well, I personally think that, so I've definitely spoken at a lot of prestigious convenings like UN, Nobel, and TEDx. I just recently gave a TED talk, in fact, day before yesterday in Bombay. So I've done all of that, but I think the way I judge, whatever I speak, and the reason I like speaking is to inspire people to action. Because what happened in my 20s, right? What happened in, when I was growing up in my 20s was none of the people around me wanted me to do what I was doing. So basically, like in your households, like my mom or my dad did not think that, they don't think you're successful or doing something cool until you actually build a company which is pretty big. Because they think mostly, with every household in India or across the world, right? Government jobs or Fortune 500 jobs are considered more cool or more stable in their language, or friends, So people don't take up entrepreneurship because of that. And I think that's like a mental suicide. Because if you are passionate about something and you are not able to do it just because of society, it's not the best place to be in, because then you regret it 15 years down the line. So I was fortunate enough to actually follow my passion. So the reason I do all of this, or reason I speak on stages, is to make sure that I inspire young people in their 20s to be motivated to start up, because it's not tough, it's easy. In fact, it's easier than working in a 9 to 5, and it also basically gives you a kick. It gives you, and also, this is the biggest reason that I speak. When you speak on what's my favorite speech been, I think one of my TEDx talks on the fifth industrial revolution got quite a lot of traction, and the concept started gaining a lot of traction, and people then started writing to me, oh, this is something cool, even I want to participate, how can I do it? And then I basically guided them to launch companies, and some of them are already multimillionaires. Like some of them have really created large companies, and they've done good to the world and made money. So that talk, I think, inspired a lot of people. The last talk I did, in fact, the last TEDx talk I did day before yesterday, is also on how to build a sustainable green blockchain. And the reason I gave that talk is to inspire young people in their 20s to start up in the blockchain space, build
Mhm.
something in the technology and help the humanity, and then make a lot of money as well. So that's been my goal, to promote the thesis that you can make more money if you do more good to the world. And I think I've been able to inspire a lot of kids to do that. And in fact, through my social media, I do that a lot as well. Through Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, I do that. So that's been, biggest incentive for me to give these speeches or talks or public speaking.
So, is your target audience mainly people in their 20s, or are you even looking at targeting probably people who are a little older and looking to start off with new businesses?
It's pretty so I think anybody who wants motivation to start up, I think that's the audience, because I think you can only solve problems. India has, I mean, not just India, the world has so many problems, right? When you talk about, basic problems like access to education, or access to health, or access to climate, or like access to water. Like, so many people don't even access to clean drinking water. So you can actually solve all of those through entrepreneurship. And I think we need a lot more entrepreneurs in the world to work on the concept of the fifth industrial revolution, or to work on social entrepreneurship, where they make money by doing good to the world. So that's the concept I've been promoting. It doesn't matter which age you belong to. I mostly said 20s because young kids actually, they fear and they lose out on the opportunity because they're influenced by their community.
Very
People, I
true.
think, and then of course, so I think that's why I mentioned people in their 20s. But of course, people in the 30s, 40s, 50s, there's no age to start up. The earlier do, it's better, of course. But even if you haven't done it in your 40s, why don't you do it now? Like, you should do it. Like, I encourage everybody to actually start up and fail. Like, be ready to fail, because I think failure is great. Like, I've failed so many times that, now, like, when I fail, I think it gives me more learning. Like, it gives me so much more than probably having a successful company. And I think those failures, you take it to your next venture, and then that helps you become successful. So I think it's a part of the journey. Failures are amazing, and you should definitely fail, but you should start up. So that's the biggest thing that I want to promote to people, to start up and take up entrepreneurship as a career option.
Wonderful. So, since you mentioned failures, can you tell me about a really big challenge or a failure that you faced that you can probably share with us?
Yeah. So one, okay. So we started. I started up a company, I think about a few years back, 5-6 years back, and we were actually, I think, the concept was great, but I think we were too early. We were too early in the market. The market wasn't ready
Ready.
for that kind of product, and I don't think we used the right go-to market to actually launch the product, and we failed. And I think that taught me a lot in terms of how to actually launch a product at being at the right place at the right time, and a bunch of stuff. So also, the one big thing that I think I learned is, when you're building a business, don't think what you want, because you're not building your product or anything for yourself. You're building your product for consumers, and depends on what your target audience is. Now, for instance, in Fire that we're building, our target audience is either governments, or Fortune 500s, or celebrities, or family offices, or universities, or kids, or school kids, college kids. So now, the biggest mistake I made that point in time was, I thought that the product is great, but every founder thinks their products are great. That's why you're starting it, right? So, but we failed very badly, and we lost a lot of money as well. But I think that really taught us, and what it did was, it basically taught me a new lesson, and I learned it. And the next time, I made sure I don't repeat the same mistake. So I think I've had a lot of failed startups, and this is just one that I shared with you. But there are so many more that I tried and failed. I tried and failed. I tried and failed. So I've had a lot of them, and I think that's really taught me to it's taught me perseverance, because I think that's the biggest trait that you need to have when you're an entrepreneur, even when you're becoming successful, because you have a large team, and it really matters how you need to be. You need to be perseverant. That's very, very important. So yeah.
So, your biggest achievement so far on the other end of the spectrum?
Well, so I think one achievement would be finally my parents now think that I'm doing something cool, which is, I think, a big achievement.
Yeah.
Because Yeah. So and I think now they've moved to a place where they say that
Mm-hmm.
you don't need to go to an IIT or an IM to be successful. You can basically start up. That's more successful than entrepreneurs are kind of more successful than government jobs or this. So it's nothing against, like, every profession is very important, but I think
Correct.
to change the mindset of my own parents and then people around me now, like, because so many people, since I started this journey and I failed and tried and failed and tried, and then a few successful ones happened, so now they're doing it. So I think that's, if you were to ask me, my biggest success is my parents now believe in the idea. B, my friends and my community, which is large, which is huge, right, runs into thousands, by the way. They
Mm-hmm.
now actually are starting up. They are starting up and solving challenges, and as I said, they've become multimillionaires by launching businesses, and they
Mm-hmm.
made money only by doing good to the world. So they've been also taking this concept that I started promoting and launching new businesses. So all my friends are now getting into the entrepreneurship space, which is great to see.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, I mean, I think this is the power of actually inspiring people. That's what it is. Your social media, it's filled with pictures of celebrities, politicians, and a lot of other influential personalities. So, is there any encounter in particular that's left you starstruck, or anything that you can remember in particular?
So I'll okay. So yeah. So there are a lot of them, in fact, but I think one which stands out, really stands out, like,
Mm-hmm.
which basically you know changed the way I thought about
Mm-hmm.
businesses, isn't with a celebrity. So I mean, so one of course is with Al Gore. So when I met the former US Vice President, he's a climate crusader. So when he spoke about how you can actually build businesses and make sure that you make money by doing good, and that was my thesis. So it really aligned. I really thought that, oh my god. So now people are now starting to believe in what I'm saying and believe in the idea, and it's really taking shape, and it's really getting viral, and it's really getting traction. So that was good. But the most amazing encounter I've had was at a place called One Young World. I was representing again India and the companies that I was running at this conference, where there were like a bunch of young people, including me, who were basically all of them entrepreneurs who were running their companies in different sectors. And I was there, and I met this young girl, and
Mm-hmm.
she was what, I think she was 17. She did not have a leg, so she was just on one leg, and she
Mm-hmm.
came to me, and I was like, "Do I help you cross the road?" And you know what she said? She said, "You don't need to help me cross the road, because I have learned and I will do it myself, so that I don't have to take help anytime further. Like, I'm just going to do it myself." So I think
Mm-hmm.
that really, really, really inspired me, and I really thought that if I mean, imagine the perseverance, or imagine the courage that a 16-year-old girl who doesn't have a leg can have. So and then I compare it to people saying, oh, the success rate of startups is just 1%. I mean, that girl has so much courage, and you're just fearing something. You have everything. You're so, like, we are so blessed, right? We have everything. I mean, two hands, two legs is also a blessing, by the way, which people forget. People just think that being blessed means that you have money, power, fame, it's all of that, but that's all secondary. So you can actually build something cool if you have a lot of courage. So I think it really taught me something. That girl taught me that anything might happen. I might have failed startups. So what I learned from that encounter was, until I am incapacitated, I am going to keep working, and I'm going to keep working to make the world a better place, which is my goal of impacting 1 billion people positively. But yeah, of course, if I'm incapacitated, that's the only way. Or if I die, I think those are the only things that I think that are going to stop me. But otherwise, nobody can stop you from reaching where you want to reach. So I think those really stick in my mind.
Okay, that's nice. So, can you tell me what a day in the life of Pratik Gauri looks like?
Well, I wouldn't let me put a disclaimer as well. I wouldn't recommend people do this, by the way, because right now my life is very hectic. So it's a lot of travel.
Mm-hmm.
Travel meaning I don't know what I am. So of course I have a couple of assistants who keep a track of my schedule, what I'm supposed to do at 11, 12. But I wake up at 7 a.m. mostly, so it starts with at 7 a.m. I do 15 minutes of meditation, and then after that, immediately I get on to work. So I have calls starting 7:30. It runs until 2 to 3 a.m. In the night, and in between there are a lot of physical meetings. So basically, it's I don't know, it's a 16-18 hour work schedule with a lot of calls, with a lot of physical meetings, and with a lot of travel. But the good thing is I end up meeting really, really cool people, really interesting people who are solving good challenges, which keep me going. But yeah, so that's currently the life for me. I think it'll become a little better. It's still good. It'll become a little better when it comes to personal life. I haven't had really time for my personal life. It's just been very professional for me in the last few years. But yeah, once the company kind of reaches a place where I think I can do with working 14, 15 hours, I'd love to do it. But currently it requires me to work a lot, like 16, 18 hours right now.
Okay. I hope you'll get there very soon. Yeah.
Yes. Hope so too. Thank you.
Yeah. So I just need to pick your brain then. So can you tell me how probably me, someone with my skill set, could start a company that would, be in line with the goals of with your fifth industrial revolution? Like, can you tell me what a company like that would look like? I'm a writer with a healthcare background, and then yeah, that's that. So I just need to pick your brain. I want to get a few ideas.
No, that is great. So I'll just give you a small example. So fifth industrial revolution is trying, as the concept says, it's you do good and you make money. That's point one. Point two, you always follow your passion and monetize it. So now when you say you're a writer in the medical space, so that's probably the sweet. So healthcare space is, by the way, completely aligned to SDG 3, which is the UN SDG framework. As an author, you have the ability to inspire people. You have the ability to inspire millions of people, billions of people to take action in the SDG 3 space. If I were you, if you're passionate about writing, you're passionate about healthcare, I would do something which is at the intersection of health and writings. So basically being an author probably in the healthcare space, but rather than just being an author, which obviously is great, like you can start but I would say, why don't you start a company, right? Why don't you start a company and give a platform to people who basically want to promote ideas in the healthcare space and have also the ability, like you, to write, right? There are so many people across the world who basically are great authors, but they don't have the platform, right? But I think you are blessed. So if you kind of create that, then you're enabling financial inclusion for them. You are creating a business model. So basically, imagine you creating a platform for healthcare. I'm just randomly, thinking. Imagine you creating a platform for healthcare, thousands of writers, right? Publishing books. Publishing books on healthcare. So it becomes a go-to-market platform for healthcare writings. And people come and write, and then you make money as a platform, a percentage of the money they make. And you end up making them make a lot of money as well. So everybody's making money, but in the end goal, everybody's also, the community gets great stuff to read on, and the community gets more inspired on what the power of what the importance of health is. And I think COVID has taught all of us what it is. It's really important. So I think it's and of course it promotes the idea of being healthy. And then you also get to make you get to run a business which is very scalable, because it's digital, right? So it's digital, which means it's easily scalable, and you don't need any money to start up, because you can actually just start a Facebook page or an Instagram page. That's how easy businesses have become. So I think that's what I would have done.
Okay, great. I mean, it's nice to get ideas. I'm always looking for new ways to grow. So it's great to get ideas like that. I hope that, your goal of reaching 1 billion people is achieved pretty soon.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Neha. It was a pleasure.